vehisbonenut bozeh. That's where we're up to. The line begins vehisbonenut bozeh. On page Nun Tes, just below the middle of the page. So we are discussing the avodah as it is possible and perceived from the Nefesh Abami's perspective, capabilities. Nefesh Abamis is not capable of relating to the Atzmos or Elokus. Elokus as it is beyond world. It can only relate to Elokus as it manifests to the world. This is called Ha'ora. This Ha'ora, regardless, despite the fact that it actually refines the world and brings godliness into the world, if one is misborn in this Ha'ora, it still does not negate the presence of the world. You still know world from the world experience. And then there is the avodah. The avodah consists, as we shall see in details, but the principle of the avodah is to put less emphasis on the mitzias of the world, on the mitzias, and greater emphasis on the Oyer Eliki. Because even in the Ha'ora, the principle is the Oyer Eliki, the highest in the world. Even though it's a Metzias of world, but what is the principle of it? What is the most important thing? And what is the world about? It's the highest that's in the world. And that's the Elokus that's in the world. And this is what enables the Nefesh Abamis to be involved in Avodas Hashem. The vehisbonenut bozeh, the hisbonenut, in this level, in the union from the tzimtzum, the Elokus that comes from the tzimtzum, is eich shebechol nivro yesh oyer v'chayes eliki hamachaya oisei. I'm going to translate the words and then point to some nuances. The Hisbonenut says how it is that in every nivra, in everything that exists, nivra means on the worldly level. Nonetheless, in that nivra, there is an oyer v'chayes eliki. There is a godly life and a godly light. Godly light, and then that light turns into life that gives life to that nivra, to that entity. Oyer is an intangible presence. Chayus has a certain expression, certain tangibility, that the nivra feels the chayus. The Oyer Eliki does not in itself translate in a Metzias. And here we're saying that in every nivra there is Oyer v'chayus. Chayus is when it becomes part of the nivra and experienced by the nivra. The Oyer The Oyer is that aspect that comes upon the Nivra, that element that essentially lifts the Nivra from the Nivra state. The one principle with Oyer, with light, is that although light does illuminate the Metzius, but light always remains aloof and above the Metzius. Like we say, the sunlight, even that part of the sunlight that is deflected from the object, that really becomes relates to the physical world, it is aloof. It does not become affected by it. The light can shine upon pure gold, and it can shine upon dirt. The light does not become dirty. It does not become pure. It's not affected, and yet it has a tremendous effect on it. And the principle in this Inyan is that the light remains always representing the Moed, the source of light. It is not a Metzius unto itself. And this is why light translates in the Nivra in Chayus, in life. Life, even though the Nivra experiences life, not only experiences, that is the Metzius of the Nivra. This is what maintains the Nivra in its current state. Without life, God forbid, the Nivra dissipates into nothingness, literally. It is the life that maintains his presence. The life that maintains its presence, even though it maintains its presence, the life is really a super presence relative to the Metzius of the Nivra. Like we say, if one has an injury, if his finger gets cut, the life in the finger doesn't get cut. And this is why the finger will heal by the direction of the light that's in the finger. The specific light, as it manifests and translated on the finger level, does not get hurt. If it did get cut, then it could not restore the finger to its perfect state. But the fact is that it restored the finger to a perfect state. Like we pointed out, we don't realize, but we don't pay attention. The finger is not just a skin. The skin is nuanced. Every skin is different than the other skin. There was what's called the fingerprint. That you can identify an individual person from amongst 1,000 and million. And when the finger gets cut, you would think, okay, he lost that nuance. Not true. It heals and it restores even that aspect, which means that the effect, the chayos, has not been affected whatsoever. Because the chayos comes from the oir. Like we point out many times, that's on a lower level. Nonetheless, it is demonstrative of the principle. In order to live, we must breathe. This breathing phenomenon is not, even though it appears to us that we are actively breathing in and out, but in truth, the breathing phenomenon is that which is being brought into us. How do we breathe? We breathe by allowing the air around us to enter our lungs. Because the air around us, in other words, there is chayus, there is life all over. And that life is in such a manner that it wants to give you life. There's air pressure. It's not just available to take. It actually presses itself. It actually supplies itself into the living entity. And this is how we live. So the experience of life is an experience of being given life rather than taking life. When we say when a person, God forbid, does not breathe normally and has to the breath has to be forced into, we say this is not, the quality of life is lost there. It's not life. This is just maintaining a temporary state until he regains his life. This is not life. In every nivro there is oir and chayis. Chayis eliki. The chayis eliki, this is what eliki is. Eliki means it originates. It is not something that is dependent on the nivro. It originates. It gives it from a higher source, from an essential source. And the essential source is such that it never dissipates. It is infinite. How? I don't understand. This is Oyer V'Chayis Eliki. There is a saying that we mentioned it a long time ago. The serpent was cursed and the curse consisted in the fact that it lost its legs and it now lies flat on the ground. And offer techel kol mechayech, and it eats earth. So one would think, from a pure physical, worldly perspective, it's a blessing, it's not a curse. As long as you stand on your legs, you have to hold yourself up. And it's possible to fall. Even a four-legged creature also has a health, so he can also possibly fall. Certainly a human being, he is the least secure on his legs. He stands on two legs. He totally doesn't have any earthly support. The serpent is completely supported by the earth. And then he's got food all wherever he goes, he's got his food. So what kind of curse is this? What's the curse? So there's a question. If the serpent is so totally and completely supported, why is the serpent the most vicious and the most venomous of all creatures? It should be the most calm and lovely and loving. What's the answer? You know the answer.
He's like a communist.
The answer is, yes, it has the whole earth. But no matter how great the earth is, the earth has its limit. The serpent lives from a limited resource. No matter how great it is, it's a limited resource. And its concern, quote unquote, is what will happen if he eats up the entire earth. It sounds like fantastic. Absolutely. If one's presence in life comes from a limited resource, it's not life. It's not life.
He removed Remove the otherworldly aspect to its life. It removed the chayas.
It removes the godly element. It's interesting. If you follow the Rashi, this is was midah k'neged midah. The serpent came to Chava and he said, Beis Hadas is a wonderful tree. God himself, what do you need God for? God created you by eating the apple from Beis Hadas. You, by eating Beis Hadas, you'll be able to create worlds. V'yisim ki. That's what Rashi says. In other words, what was his advice to Chava? Find independence from God. So he got his total independence. That was his reward. He got his independence. And he is the most venomous, most unhappy creature on earth.
But when an animal is able to sense that the source is from a limited source, or
there's a pasuk in Bochi Nafshi we just said yesterday and the day before. Hakfirim sheyagim latorif ulvakish mikeil ochra. Kfirim are the young lions. This is the, so to speak, the epitome of a lion. The young lion who is first coming out into the world and first making its turf. Shoyagim Matonov, he screams for the catch, for the prey. Ulvakish Mikhail Ochram, and then they come out and they ask from God for their food. What is the kfir going around and screaming into the thin air? He's looking for food, also looking for food, but he's screaming into the thin air because that's where it's coming from.
So, what does it have to do with the screaming lions? What does it have to do with what we said before?
You answer that.
No, we spoke about Chava and the tree of the snake and the tree of knowledge. That the snake said to Chava that she could be independent. Now we're talking the lions are screaming for their food. I don't see the connection.
Come on. What do we say about the snake? What was the snake? The curse on the snake?
That he's on the ground and he eats dirt and he's limited.
And what?
That he's limited.
That he's independent. The kfir is not independent. All right, so this is what the vehisbonenut of the, even from the nefesh habahamis perspective.
You mentioned the chayas and the light, and the chayas is particular to each individual bria. Like each finger has a different chayas. The light, we say, shines on each thing equally. I'm just trying. What's the point that we're trying to? In other words, is the chayas different from the or that the chayas is particular?
Oh, I can't.
Missing a point.
So, the vehisbonenut of the nefesh habahamis, he recognizes that there is an oil and key in the world, and then he focuses in and says in every nivra in the world there is an oil and a chayes eliki. Yes, indeed, in the Nivra itself it translates into Chayus. But it's the Chayus Eliki, which means that Chayus is the result of the godly Oyer presence. It is something which is above being a Nivra. It's a godly reality. It results in the Nivra as a Chayus, which is actually imbued in every Nivra and every part of the Nivra as pertains to the Nivra, but essentially its source is Oyer, which means it represents the infinity of the godly infinity. Not only for it represents the godly gift. It is given to him rather than him having to take it. It's being bestowed upon him. This is the Oy B'chayis Eliki. And the Nefesh Abam is misboinen. What's his boinen? Okay, we pointed this out many times. Okay, so you understand that this is what it is. This is how the moral logic works. I know how it works. Finish. Let's go on. That does not do anything. That does not do anything. Okay. The vehisbonenut is not that such and such is the truth. The vehisbonenut is that one is actually focusing and seeing how in every nivra there is that truth, that Oyer V'chayis. This is the expression Eich shebechol nivra. Not vehisbonenut. What is the word Eich add over here? He's misboinen that in every nivra there is Oyer V'chayis Eliki. But if he's misboinen that in every nivra there is Chayis Eliki, it's not going to bring him closer to that Chayis. It's going to be an exercise, so to speak, in his intelligence.
I'm sorry. Can you just again the difference between Chayas and Or that we're focused on here?
Oyer always remains attached and representative of the Moyer. Chayus is imbued and becomes part of the nivra in which it is mislavish.
And the connection between the two?
It is the Oyer Eliki that translates in the nivra as Chayus, which appears to the nivra that he is really living on his own. And this is when his vehisbonenut says that this Chayus, even though it's actually imbued in the nivra and the fingers alive, that life element really is a Chayus Eliki, which means it's on the broader and on the truer level, it is the Oyer Eliki. Like we explained in the phenomenon of breathing. That breathing gives life only if you get the breath by being given to from the open space, from the source of life. The person felt that he is essentially in a lifeless environment, but he has to draw life into his nostrils, and he lives from, and that would not be life.
It was said that the oil presenting the more is always attached to the more. So how can oil become here?
Repeat, I couldn't hear what you said.
How can oil being translated to here if oil is always attached to the more and representing the more?
So what's the question?
Now, it was being said that the oil is only attached to the moor.
Yeah, that's right.
And now it says that
That's right. The
that
Moir
it's
wants to give him
translated.
chayas. And ultimately, the truth is that the Moir is what gives chayas. But as a result of the tzimtzum, you see mitzias. That's what we said. That the Shomas Agveyas, they don't see mitzias. They see only alakus. But the Behev Shabbamis, he sees mitzias. But nevertheless, he recognizes that in everything there is an oil v'chayis aliki. And his bonus is, as we pointed out, the his bonus is not the fact that in every there is chayis. That's not his bonus. That's it. That's an academic piece of information. His bonus is when he actually delves into and recognizes that yes, this is indeed what I am experiencing. This is indeed what I see. This is what I'm living with. This is when it becomes his. This is when it becomes avoid. Where the nivra ceases to be a nivra, so to speak, just a mitzvah, something so, but he sees that the nivra represents the chayes eliki that's in him. That's what the vehisbonenut is. V'shalidei vehisbonenut ba'amokas hadas, where as a result of the process of the vehisbonenut, the ha'amokas hadas, and the delving deeply and imbuing his das deeply, Shema migdaito bozeh, that he delves deeply with his das. Now, this also needs just a little bit of a comment. So his bonus is a name from being the his bonus. He reflects, but that's not, again, reflecting is not what we're talking about. We're talking about mamik daite b'zeh. What is das? There's chokhmah, bina, and das. Chokhmah and bina, these are the two superior faculties of revealing, of bringing the light into observation, into knowledge. But das is where that becomes a reality in the person. That's mean das. Das does not no longer have the union of discovery. The Chokhmah Bina is an union for discovery. In das, this is how I think. This is what the reality in which I live. That's mean das. As a result of das, the midas of the person conform to the das. This becomes ultimately defines him. So ma migdaitoi bozeh means that the sense of his own reality, he becomes imbued and recognizes this truth, so that his own reality and the godly reality are not two separate things. So ma migdaitoi bozeh, that's what his vehisbonenut is about. He delves deeply with his das, and to recognize that this is in fact the reality that he recognizes. At first that he knows, and then he recognizes it. Eich shebechol dover, he's mamik daide b'eich shebechol dover. He's mamik in the fact that in everything yesh oir v'chayis eliki. There is an oir v'chayis eliki. And at the point of das, he no longer has the logical arguments that substantiate this perception. At the point of das, he goes directly to this perception.
No, he no longer has the what that's supposed to say.
The logic, the arguments. There is no discovery. He focuses indirectly on the in, on Eich. He sees that in every nivra yesh evachayis eliki, and then b'shehoyiker hu elikus, and that the ikar, that really the principle of the nivra is the elikus. This is what gives it a real presence. Not the mitzius, but the elikus that gives it a presence. That is the vehisbonenut, and this is where the amokas hadas is. That becomes his own recognition of the reality, and that is within the purview, within the capacity of the nefesh habamis. This is it for this morning.
This whole exercise is being done with the seichel of the nefesh habamis.
Yeah.
So ultimately it becomes a perception where he lives with the chayas eloki in everything. Is this the idea? In other words, we're saying each thing individually is its own struggle to sense this, right?
Well, first there's an overall general understanding and general perception, and then he can focus on anything and identify in everything. He says, "Oh yeah, there's a likus in this." And that affects nefesh habamis directly in terms of its midas and so forth. It will never become the sole reality. Even though you say he's an ikir hu elikus, yes, but still the Metzius is what he recognizes. All right, so this is it for this morning.
A goy is also on the